All right, Philip, I'm going to comment on your paper here and hopefully give you some suggestions. One of the things you're going to have to do throughout is really work with the language and some of the sentence beginnings. At the moment, I realize this is just a draft. The writing is fairly weak and probably doesn't express your ideas as cogently as you would like them to. So again, I'm just addressing content here, but it does need some significant editing. Okay, so you can start with this. It's a little bit of background on the time period, and then you go into the summary itself. There's some other options on that handout or screencast about introductions you're welcome to do, but this is brief, it's to the point. If you want to, you could create a scenario, a more creative scenario of what it might have been like to have been a black individual or an African American during this time period. You could have something like imagine being such and such. Imagine living in a community where you had to use a separate drinking fountain and other issues. Again, I don't know if you did any research on that Jim Crow era, but there's a lot going on there that really influenced what Gaines writes about and how he describes his characters and situations. We don't want to call it an outstanding work of literature unless you're going to prove that it's outstanding. Okay, just go into that a lesson before dying, then just go into your summary here. Okay. One of the things I might ask you to consider is to begin with perhaps talking about this is the life in the South, or what life was like during the Jim Crow era, because then in that sense what you do, you set your paper up by creating the big picture first, the backdrop for the time period in which the novel occurs, and then you can go into perhaps the women and then end up with the religion, because religion is certainly a big part of this novel and an important motif. Okay. Think about using these adjective clauses, because what you're saying here is the powerful influence throughout his life. He demonstrates this through the entirety of his novel. Are these two ideas of equal importance? Perhaps not, but one of the ways to do this, Gaines has a powerful female influence. That's a little bit awkward, but throughout his life, which reveals itself or demonstrates itself in the novel, or in the character of Tantaloo, or something of that sort. I don't know if you focus on one female character or not here, but again, that's one way to begin it. And then you're suggesting concluding sentences, which I guess we're still moving down here. You really have to work with the language. It's a long paragraph, at least how it looks here on the screen. Okay, and I guess we're still on this. One with women. Okay, looks okay here. Now when we go to the next one, you have to have that transitional sentence. You have to relate back to what you just focused on and lead forward into this new support. So what you have really doesn't make any sense. Again, if you have Gaines's life, you want to make sure that you have an apostrophe in there. But you say he has been a devout Catholic, expresses his belief throughout the novel. That's just not clear. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say there. Okay. Reverend Ambrose is one of the key people here, and certainly the fact that all of them go to church as well. Okay, maybe you can be a little more articulate with Reverend Ambrose. That might be pretty good. This is a little bit repetitious here in yellow. This repeats what you just said. This is pretty obvious that it's an important aspect. So, again, what's this next point that you're focusing on with religion? It seems to be maybe a little disorganized. You might want to focus on perhaps the role of the church in the community. You could focus on, Reverend Ambrose. You have to have some kind of logical sequence to this talk about religion. As written, it seems to kind of be a little random, bouncing around. Churches was in a classroom. All of his characters except Wiggins are Catholic. We have Reverend Ambrose, and now we're back to he went to church every Sunday. So this one seems a little bit disorganized here. Okay, Vivian, I believe, was religious as well. Okay, and again, if you keep this here, you're still going to need a transitional statement. Okay, to refer back to what you spoke about, but I think this might work better as your first major connection. Okay, so this is where really the information on Jim Crow is really going to come into play. It will create a kind of a longer, perhaps, context in a sense, or a broader context than just Aunt Augustine. Okay, where do these stereotypes come from? Not just from Aunt Augustine, but just the whole legal or lack of legal system that protected African Americans during this time period. You have segregation, certainly was a part of it, and that's key in the novel. People living on the plantation, the fact that he has to go in the back door at I forget what the person's Monsieur, the French name, I forget who he is here. Okay, so this is segregation. That's the time period. So again, think about putting that first as your first major support. And we're always going to refer to him as Gaines. Down here we have the black man. Okay, so again, I would say you want to organize your points kind of chronologically, or when we did the exercise in class with the purpose of each paragraph, just make sure there's a logical order here as you move through your evidence in the novel, as well as what you find out about his life. Okay. With the conclusions, I think it's pretty clear that, again, you want to restate the thesis, but check out the one in which the sample talks about maybe one of the major issues that this novel proposes. Again, the time setting is after To Kill a Mockingbird. In fact, To Kill a Mockingbird was written much sooner, much earlier than this. But what he's doing is trying to recreate this time period, this horrible time period for African Americans that showed racism really at its worst in the South. So, think about this issue and what Gaines wants us to leave with, and perhaps he also wants us to leave thinking about what it means to be human, what it means to be a man, and the fact that regardless of our skin color, regardless of our religion, we are all human beings, and we should respect that within one another. Okay, so there's just some thoughts there. You have some good information. It's come along, Philip, and again, I think once you pretty much, fine-tune the organization of your paper, really do spend some time editing. You can take it to the Writing Center, have them check it out, or maybe somebody who's a good writer, maybe another student could look at it as well. Okay, good luck with that, and we'll see you in class tomorrow. Bye-bye.